Hello everyone, welcome back to Shang-Chi. I'm Alex, and I literally just got back from the theater from seeing Mandalorian and Grogu, so this is my review of it. Now, going in, this will be mainly non-spoilers. I will briefly talk about spoilers at the end, but this will, non-spoilers, so I will definitely let you know when spoilers start, but with that, let's get started on the review. Now, before we start, I will be looking at my Letterboxd review to reference. If you did not know, I have a Letterboxd account, so just Shang-Chi Bricks, no spaces. So yeah, you can go check that out. I talk about a lot of movies I don't usually make content for because a lot of those movies I don't think a lot of people would be interested in. But yeah, I kind of just do it for fun. If you want to read my reviews on some random movies, you can go do that on my Letterboxd account. So make sure to follow there, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel because we are so close to 100 subscribers. It's been one of my huge goals, one of my personal goals on YouTube to get 100 subscribers. So please make that happen. I think I would very much appreciate that. So let's get started with our review. Just a warning going into this review, there are some minor spoilers. I don't know what movie really is an example. I'm not gonna say exact plot points, but I may say something like this character does this, or this character doesn't do this. I kind of did this with my Mario Galaxy review, where I briefly talk about stuff, so if you don't want to know that at all, then you can just skip the review. If you don't want to know if certain characters do stuff, or just don't really do anything, I won't get into actual details on what they do or what they don't do, so yeah, just letting you know before you head into the review. Alright, so today I saw it on a Monday. Today is a Monday. I didn't actually see it the first couple of days it was in theaters, just because I was pretty busy with a lot of other related things. So I definitely saw a lot of people's reviews for it, and I definitely got a little nervous. I will say, because a lot of people didn't really like it. A lot of people, I think, felt very underwhelmed by it. So going in, I definitely tried to kind of temper my expectations, not get too excited, and kind of just, I don't know. I was definitely very excited to see it because I've actually never seen a Star Wars movie in theaters. This is my first one I've ever seen because I got into Star Wars in 2019, which is when Rise of Skywalker came out, and then I never saw a Star Wars movie in theaters because of COVID. So it is really, really exciting. I actually got to see a Star Wars movie in theaters. I think that's one of the things that I think one of the things I actually kind of liked about it. I know definitely, obviously, a lot of people have seen Star Wars movies in theaters before, but for me personally, I think one of the reasons I actually didn't like it a lot was because it just felt like I think I was for personal reasons, I was so excited to actually see a Star Wars movie in theaters. I think that's something that was just pretty awesome to me that this was kind of my first Star Wars cinematic experience. So I think that's one of the reasons I think this movie did. I really enjoyed it, probably a lot more than other people. So yeah. Now, I will say, I feel obviously one of the things we have to talk about first is, obviously, Mandalorian and Grogu. I do think that both of them were a lot of fun to see on the big screen. One of the things I liked is I feel like their dynamic definitely kind of, you could tell, they're a lot more used to each other. Din Djarin's very much more of, a father figure to him now, kind of more than ever. I like how, I don't know, I feel like their relationship has definitely grown a bit, where it feels like he definitely, knows his kid a little better now. So I did definitely like their relationship. I felt like the structure was interesting. We kind of get our first kind of act, which is the Mandalorian act, where, it definitely is focusing on Mandalorian, and Grogu's kind of just to the side. And then after a little while, we actually kind of get a little bit of a Grogu kind of moment, a little Grogu kind of act of the movie, which I really liked. I mean, it is called The Mandalorian and Grogu, so I do like that we definitely got a bit kind of Mandalorian to do some Mandalorian things, and then Grogu to do his Grogu things. I did think that Grogu was pretty funny in this movie. It was nice to see Grogu, just getting up to trouble, doing a bunch of things, eating things. I definitely like that. I feel like he really is becoming the baby Groot of the Star Wars universe. There was a moment it's not really a spoiler. It kind of is, so I won't really say it now. But there was a moment that reminded me of Baby Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. If you think about it, you could know what I mean. But yeah, I did really like that. I feel like Baby Baby Grogu is definitely becoming a part, kind of like the baby Groot of the Star Wars universe. Now, part of the structure part is I did feel like the bit where it transitioned from kind of the Mandalorian to section and the Grogu section, I did feel like that was a bit clunky. I think that was probably one of my lesser favorite parts of the movie. It definitely felt kind of a bit disjointed, a bit clunky, transitioning from the Mandalorian part to the Grogu part, but I did definitely enjoy seeing both of them on screen a lot. Now, I did definitely see a decent amount of reviews before seeing this. That's why I wanted to temper my expectations. But I don't know. For me personally, I would kind of disagree with a lot of things people said. I know one of the complaints was that this kind of just feels like 3 or 4 episodes of The Mandalorian just on the big screen. And I do kind of understand that. But at the same time, I think it just felt like kind of, its all own kind of self-contained adventure. It was kind of just a lot of fun. I personally had a lot of fun with it. It just kind of felt like it's a little own fun adventure. I do understand, for example, like the Simpsons movie, for example. The Simpsons movie, that was obviously a big part of Marge and Homer's lives. But, for the Mandalorian and Grogu, it did kind of feel like just another adventure for them. It kind of just felt like somewhat of a normal day for them. I guess not normal. But, I do understand how that part could be a bit lacking. But personally, I think kind of my enjoyment for the movie, probably because I tempered my expectations, it was kind of just a cute, fun little adventure. Now, obviously, I can see complaints for this, especially because this is the first Star Wars movie in a while, but people did feel like it doesn't tie into any, doesn't really tie into anything a lot. We do get definitely some Clone Wars characters and a Rebels character and other characters from the Mandalorian cinematic universe. So it definitely feels like, we're in the Star Wars universe. Like, this isn't like the next movie, Starfighter, that's gonna be kind of like in somewhat of like a different time period. It'll be away from a lot of Star Wars characters we know. I do feel like it definitely feels connected, and I understand how it could be lacking, that people want this to be a little more tied together with something like Ahsoka. But I did really enjoy it. And another thing I will note, there's no post-credit scene going into this. That's not a spoiler or anything. There's just no post-credit scene. So, obviously, it's great to stay till the end of the credits. I didn't really see anything. But if you really need to go to the bathroom or something, I would highly, you don't really need to stay for anything at the end. Now I want to talk about some of the other characters we got to see, particularly someone like Rada the Hutt. In anticipation for this, I did watch the Clone Wars movie for the first time. A bit of background information: I haven't seen all of Clone Wars. I saw, I think, all of the first season, and then I saw all the very important Mandalore arcs, Darksaber stuff, Mortis Gods, and then I've seen the last 4 episodes, which are amazing. So I definitely know the more important parts of the Clone Wars. But I did want to definitely take a look at the Clone Wars movie. My thoughts about that are on Letterboxd. I talked about the Clone Wars movie on Letterboxd, so obviously you can go check that out. But if you haven't seen the Mandalorian and Grogu yet, and you haven't seen the Clone Wars movie yet, you don't need to watch the Clone Wars movie before this to understand Rada the Hutt, because Rada the Hutt's literally just a baby in the Clone Wars movie, so you don't really need to see that much of him, really. But yeah, it was, in my head, kind of a fun little ride, the Clone Wars movie, but I did enjoy seeing Rada the Hutt kind of fully grown here. I did like that we kind of got, a character arc. We didn't really get a character arc for, the Mandalorian and Grogu, but we do kind of get, a character arc for Rada the Hutt. There's just light spoilers. I'm not going to give too many plot details about it, but we do get a character arc for Rada the Hutt. I did find that to be, pretty, enjoyable to kind of, it isn't easy being the son of Jabba the Hutt. And I found that to be really interesting, and I liked kind of, the return of the Jedi ties. Now, I will say, one of the more interesting parts is that Rada the Hutt was voiced by Jeremy Allen White, who is obviously Carmi in The Bear, which I have been watching. And I am a bit disappointed. I didn't really sound like him, because they really, made his voice very low. They kind of toned it down on purpose, which makes sense because he's a Hutt. But at the same time, when you have someone who's kind of famous, like Jeremy Allen White, it's kind of funny to hear him be, a Hutt. Obviously, you don't see that every day. But it's one of those things. I do kind of wish that maybe it sounded a little more like Jeremy Allen White. Like, it really could have just been anyone, but it would have been fun if it would have been fun if it did kind of sound like Carmy from The Bear. That's just kind of a minor nitpick, but I understand why they had to make the choices they did. But I did have a lot of fun seeing Rada the Hutt on screen. Another Clone Wars character we got to see was Embo. Embo is, I actually haven't really seen many Clone Wars episodes of Embo, but Embo was a bounty hunter in Clone Wars, and I thought he was pretty cool. I do feel like we could have gotten a little more Embo in the movie, but the movie did a great job making him feel very, like, ominous and stuff, and very intimidating. I do wish we got to see a little more of Embo himself, because I do think he's a cool character, and, I mean, once again, very, very light spoilers, he isn't really the main villain. He's kind of like, if you've seen Ninjago, he's kind of like Klaus to Master Chen, if you know what I'm talking about. But, yeah, mild spoilers, he isn't the main villain. I'd love to see him be the main villain, but at the same time, I feel like if he were to be the main villain, that would feel a little more like maybe a TV thing. And then from Star Wars Rebels, we do get to see Zeb again, which is super, super fun. I love Zeb. I do like that they included him here because he was absent from the Ahsoka TV show. And then he likely will appear in that in Ahsoka season 2 to be reunited with the Rebels crew, which is great. I feel like he could have done some more things. We do get a little bit of some action fight scenes with Zeb. I did feel a bit of Zeb was lacking, but obviously CGI is expensive, and Zeb's a lot of fun. We do get to see some fun kind of Zeb dialogue, but yeah, nothing crazy from Zeb, which is a bit disappointing, but at the same time, I kind of understand some of those choices, and we likely will see him again in Ahsoka Season 2. Another kind of random character that I also felt like didn't do a whole lot was Sigourney Weaver's character. I feel like it's one of those things you kind of get a famous actress to, like, play someone, but she doesn't really do anything. Like, she's like Maria Hill, like, I don't know, Maria Hill doesn't do very much. Sigourney Weaver didn't do very much. Like, nothing really happened with her. She kind of just told Mando what to do. Yeah, so if you're expecting to see some great Sigourney Weaver acting, you won't get it here. Now, I think one of the highlights of the movie, I guess I kind of talked about a couple of kind of minor negatives, but I did feel like that just because the Mandalorian and Grogu went to a bunch of different planets and we saw a bunch of different environments, I felt like the Star Wars universe felt very alive because of the fact that there were a bunch of different aliens and creatures and droids and all sorts of different kind of like Star Wars beings that it just kind of felt refreshing to see it just felt like Star Wars so much. And I think that just felt really great. Earlier this year we got the Mall show, which is animated, but then the only Star Wars thing we really got from 2025 was Andor Season 2, and Andor is my favorite thing that Disney Plus has put out. I absolutely love Andor, but obviously Andor is a lot more grounded, and we don't see, like, aliens everywhere, and we don't see this kind of big, kind of, slightly cartoonier environments, so it did feel very refreshing to kind of see some live action kind of just, like, Star Wars aliens, just robots, droids, all sorts of like random creatures and stuff. It did feel like there were a lot. If you've seen the movie, I think you definitely, you feel it. Like there's like so many random creatures, so many different like new species, old species, all sorts of random species from the Star Wars galaxy. But I think that part felt very nice to see a bunch of different Star Wars things. A lot of people said in the reviews that it definitely felt like a couple episodes of the TV show, which I do kind of understand from a character standpoint, but at the same time, we got a lot of really great action sequences. I thought it was awesome to see the Mandalorian and Grogu do all sorts of things. Mandalorian was fighting a bunch of people. Rada the Hutt gets to fight a lot of people, so that was a lot of fun. Grogu, I feel like didn't use the Force that much. You don't really see him use the Force all that much, which I find kind of interesting. Obviously, he doesn't need to use it all the time, but we got some really great action sequences in here. I'll talk a little bit about them in the spoiler section, but yeah, I thought it was great. Another definite highlight from this movie was Ludwig Göransson doing the score. I hope I pronounced that right. He's amazing. He's done I honestly think he's probably like the next like John Williams, or like he's so good. I think he can just do so many different types of music. Like he did Sinners, he did Turning Red. Wait, no, he didn't do Turning Red. No, I think he did. He did do Turning Red. He did Black Panther. He's done all sorts of kind of stuff like this. And I think, it just felt like so. I think he made kind of that galaxy and segment of the movie, and just like being kind of with all these Star Wars aliens, he just made the score just made everything feel a lot more alive. He was doing such a good job. I think he did an amazing job with that. So I do really appreciate it. I think Ludwig Göransson was amazing in this movie. Alright, so wrapping it up with my final thoughts for the movie. Did I enjoy it? Yes, definitely. I did enjoy it. If you are a Star Wars fan of basically any kind, I would highly recommend just going to see it again. We haven't had a Star Wars movie for the last 7 years. So I do think it is definitely great to have another kind of Star Wars movie in theaters, even if you don't like it that much. If you enjoyed the Mandalorian TV show, I definitely recommend seeing this. I think you're definitely going to enjoy it. I think just be aware going into it that it is definitely kind of it's pretty self-contained. Like, it doesn't really like do anything crazy. There aren't any connections to anything that much. But yeah, I did definitely enjoy it. I would definitely recommend checking it out if you are a Star Wars fan. Just be aware of that. Kind of put it in your mindset that there aren't going to be a lot of connections. And then once you put that in your mindset, I think you're going to just enjoy it a lot more. So now I will be talking about some a lot more heavy spoilery things. So if you are leaving now because you haven't seen the movie yet, see ya. Have a good day. Now the final thing I want to talk about, spoilers ahead. This is pretty heavy spoilers. I will be talking about the final battle and what happens after that. I enjoyed the final battle a lot. I think I definitely had a smile on my face during the final battle, partially because, like I said, this was my first Star Wars final battle I got to see in theaters. There were X-Wings, Y-Wings, U-Wings. It just felt so alive and so much fun. It was really funny to see, like, Rada the Hutt just, like, roll over people. I honestly kind of just had a kick at the final battle. It was a ton of fun. I did like the kind of aerial action sequences, and we also get to see Carson Teva, one of my favorite kind of new era Disney characters, because we haven't seen Carson Teva in a while, and he's awesome. I do find it interesting. So definitely, they leave the door open to a lot of things happening. I don't really, because it's so self-contained, and there isn't anything that particularly connects to the grander Star Wars universe. I don't really think that like a lot of things in Ahsoka season 2, like I bet Zeb is gonna show up at the end. We definitely see kind of Rada the Hutt with Zeb, Rada the Hutt and Zeb kind of hanging out together. I could honestly, I know this isn't Marvel, this is Star Wars, but I would love a Marvel style special presentation, 40 minutes of like Zeb and Rada the Hutt just like battling and like just doing all these kind of fun stuff. Zeb mentioned buying Rada the Hutt a drink, so I don't know. Going from there, I'd love to see a Star Wars special presentation of those two together. I think that would be so much fun. We also see Embo survives. He kind of escapes the little Sarlacc pit, Rancor pit-ish thing in the Hutt's area. So I would love to see Embo come back. Maybe in the Ahsoka TV show. Maybe he'll show up in some other way. Honestly, I'd love a Zeb and Rada the Hutt versus Embo special presentation. Actually, please, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau. I would love that. That would be so much fun. And then kind of one more thing, like how he was kind of like an uncle to Grogu. I definitely like that character growth. I thought that was great. Yeah, that kind of wraps it up. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 100 subscribers. Yeah, so I'll see you on the next one, and have a nice day.